Bienvenidos a Desde Cero. Welcome to Right From the Start. On today's podcast, we are honored to have Jefferson Award winner and community leader, Roy Edward Lopez. Mr. Lopez, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, Manuel, muchas gracias. Thank you very much. I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to come by and talk to you.
Man, it's an honor, man. It's an honor, really.
Yeah.
And we got lots to talk about and lots to cover, so let's get going. Well, let's start right from the start. Where were you born, Roy?
Well, it's a tricky situation, to be honest with you. Porque I was born in Bryan, College Station. Mm-hmm. I was born here in Bryan, but as a child, my parents, my dad Emilio Lopez, and my mom Gloria Leal Lopez, eran de Monterrey, Mexico. Mm-hmm. And so all my family on my dad and my mother's side, we're all from Monterrey. A lot of people, they look at me and I say Monterrey, because they see me all my life here in Bryan, College Station.
I was surprised when you said when I heard that too. So.
And so the thing is that I was born here and raised in Monterrey. Okay. I went to Monterrey, and I was, as a child, my dad would take us to Monterrey back and forth, because, what they wanted, and it's funny, is that they wanted me to be born here to become a United States citizen, but then, in Monterrey, but I was a child in Monterrey. It wasn't, I grew up and went to the schools there or anything like that. Right. I just, as a child, I was in Monterrey, and to be honest with you, I every year as we were growing, we would go to Monterrey, and I would spend all my time with my grandparents, both of my abuelito and my abuelita,
In the good old days.
Yeah, in La Colonia Independencia, that's where they were from. So, it was just, it was a situation, unique situation, but, how the story transpires and everything like that, and back then, my parents, back then our grandparents got married very young.
Right.
It wasn't like 23 or 24. You're talking about 15 and 16 years old. Yeah. And so my parents got married at a very young age. I think my mom was only like 14 years old or 15, and my dad was 16 or 17, somewhere around there.
Did they do that for more economic purposes, probably?
Well, no. To be honest with you, what had happened, it was not economically. It's just that my dad fell in love with.
It was just pure love.
Pure love, and he loved. He met my mom in a bus, and my abuelito would. He had polio, but he would sell loteria, and my mom would help him. And they would go in the camiones and they would sell loteria, the tickets, like the lotto tickets. And if I get kind of emotional, please forgive me, because you keep
going, man.
When you talk about your moms and your dad, they passed away on me 5 years ago, but it's like it was just yesterday, and you're bringing back some memories that you don't talk about that, at all. But like I say, as my dad would travel, he would get on the bus and he met my mom, and then later on, my mom got pregnant, and you know how that goes, and se casaron, and but my dad, he was an accountant. He was an accountant in Monterrey, and he did get an education. My mom, no education. So it was, back then, se casaban, it wasn't permitted, con alguien that was, in the high level, and then, somebody in the low level. They weren't, no les daban permiso. El rico, el pobre. I don't want to say it. I don't want to say it like that, because, but it was something that that happened. And so, my dad started a new life at a very young age. He had my sister Dora Maria Aurora, se llamaba Aurora Maria Lopez.
How many siblings do you have?
I only have I have one sister and one brother and myself. I'm the baby of the family at the age of 66 now. I have a sister. Now she's Galvan, and she lives in Austin. And then my brother Emilio Lopez Jr. lives here in Bryan. And he just recently lost his wife, Marianne. It was Marianne Moreno. Probably a lot of people know her, but it was Marianne Lopez and my brother Emilio. And so they had my sister going back. And so what had happened is that my dad had to go and start making money. So one day my dad just picked up the suitcases and picked up everything. And basically this is where Roy Lopez chapter begins. Because the reason is that he had a brother que se llamaba Beto that lived in Fresno, California.
Okay.
And Beto invited my dad to Fresno. And he says, vente para acá, hay mucho trabajo para acá. And what it was, el trabajo era el durazno, peaches and grapes. And so the thing is, he packed up the family.
And took off.
And took off.
Right.
And then my sister was born, then my brother was born, and I was born. And, and all of a sudden, here we go to Califas, to Fresno. And we got there in Fresno, California. Right. And this is where a lot of people didn't realize is that, I lived in Califas before I did anything else because, I was Bryan, Monterrey.
Right.
But basically, as a child, I started growing up in Fresno, California.
Right. So how was it growing up in Fresno?
Oh, man. At that time, now, I was born in 1957, so as a child, I was growing up with my brother because I was really tight with my brother. My sister was a little older, at that time it was
how old were you when you moved to Fresno, California?
Oh, man, I must have been like 6 years old, 5 or 6, somewhere 5 years old. I'm going to say 5 or 6. Mm-hmm. And so my brother was, 5, 6, 7, he's around 8 years old. And so we moved back to Bryan, I want to say in around like 60, I was around 10, 11 years old when we moved back here. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to say 60, como te digo, como unos 66 or 67, somewhere around the 67, because I was around 10 years old. But what had happened is that my dad comenzó, and this is how the story began, is that mi tío Beto offers, said, hey, aquí tenemos un trabajo. And we started picking grapes as a family. And I would do it, I was picking grapes, but I was mostly the kid,
Right.
But
at what age was that?
Oh, man.
When you started working the fields?
Oh, man, the fields. I was probably around like 6 years old, 7 years old. Bunch of kids.
Right.
Bunch of kids. But we grew up fast in the field. Because the reason is that how you got paid back then is you had buckets. You had they had una canasta.
Yeah, you get paid for per bucket.
You get a canasta, and you would load up the canasta, and then you would take it to this truck, and they gave you a coin. And that coin, you stuck it in your pouch. Uh-huh. And my dad would always say, no la pierdes esto, no la pierdes, la guardas. And so to me, it was like fun because we would carry the basket, go in there, and they would give us a coin. And then at the end of the day, my dad would stand in the line con todos los hombres.
Right. And
he would cash in those little monedas that they gave us.
How much was each coin worth? Oh,
man, I do not know, Manuel. It's just that I just gave him, and when we were up there, we had the green, and we also had the red, the red grapes.
So everybody would get the coins and give them to your dad, and your dad would collect at the end?
Everybody was picking. My sister, my brother, my mom, and my dad were picking. I was the one who was carrying the las canastas. Because I would carry them, and hey, aquí tengo otra, and I would. To me, it was like racing.
You were the runner.
I was the runner, and the other kids, we would run. We would run to the truck to see who would get there first and get paid and everything. But as we grew up, as we were growing up, we realized that was how we ate and how we had a roof over our head.
What kind of hours did you work?
Oh, man, comenzando como las 5 de la mañana, 4:30 de la mañana, till the sun came down.
Wow.
And the thing about it is, after we got through there, what had happened is that we would go to this place that would have peaches, and the pescadores would already have the peaches. Now, the funny thing about that one was we carried crates, because what they would do is they would get these wooden crates, and they had these little, I don't know what they were called. Help me out, Manuel. It was like paper, and it had, and you would put the peaches on it.
Was it like egg crates?
Yeah,
probably?
it was something like that. And what it was is that you put the peaches on there, and then they would lay another layer, and then they would put the peaches and everything like that.
That's what they use, like little egg crates.
And then you load it up into the truck, and then they had like a belt that you would pick out the peaches, and you would be doing that. And as for kids, that's what we did. But you got to remember one thing: peaches have fuzz on it.
Right.
And that fuzz, te arraba, y te comenzabas a rascar, you would be itching. And they would have this arroyo on the side of it, and all the kids, at the end, man, we would throw ourselves inside the arroyo, and that's where we took our bath, and how we got out, and how we were doing this. And we did that for a very long time.
Well, what was your school schedule like? Did you guys attend school at the same time?
Yes, we did, but I was still a child.
Right.
So my schooling was at a park. My brother and my sister went to a school, but they only went a half a day. They didn't go the full, que esto, que el otro, porque la cosa es. And this is where it turns a little bit, because when you mentioned the schooling, it was something, how would I say it?
Was it more like homeschooling, probably?
Yeah, it was homeschooling, but we would do it I would do it at the park. I would do it at the park, because they would get all the kids, and we'd get all together, and they would teach us at the park for like around 2 hours or 3 hours. And then from there, what would happen is that we would go back and work on the fields. Okay. So if you ever seen that movie, McFarlane?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, así era.
Okay.
It was just like that. Trabajar, pisquear, trabajar, and that's what you did. And so that was the lifestyle that we had. But
just work in school.
Yeah, but the thing about it is that this is where it was unique, because they really didn't want us to go to school. They really wanted us to.
They wanted the labor.
They wanted the labor, but a person that came out about that everybody knows in the history books and everything is Cesar Chavez.
Right, and that's what I want to ask you.
Yeah.
You got a chance to meet Cesar Chavez, but you were young to remember,
young.
right?
I was a young
right.
kid, and so really to me it wasn't. I really didn't know. I knew who he was and everything, but I didn't think how important or nothing.
Right. Later on, you figured out who he was.
Later
right?
on, as I grew up, I remember saying, "I know that man.
Right.
I know that man." And then I know Dolores. I know Dolores.
Right.
Dolores
Huerta.
Huerta, yes. Right. She was the second. She was like, when you say a second hand or the second arm of Cesar Chavez. But
let's say who Cesar Chavez was. Right.
Go ahead.
He was a Mexican American leader who fought the rights of farm workers in the United States, right? In a nonviolent method like boycott strikes and fasts as well, right? They had marches as well.
He had a lot of marches.
What do you recall about meeting Cesar Chavez?
Oh, he would put all the kids. He would fight for us. Llegaban, and he demanded that we would get an education. And me seeing part of that, and he would put us on the line for the kids to hold these banners, and we would march. We would march to get the rights of education, because they wanted to use us as a labor force, and he wanted us to go ahead and get an education.
Right.
And so he fought for all the immigrants, todos. I mean, all the rights that we deserved at that time. And so he fought for us to see how far he can get, and then all of a sudden, he became so powerful, him and Dolores, that we started getting an education. We started to get everything, but you got to remember one thing, Manuel. You see, we're talking about califas, and you're talking about from the 60s to the 70s,
right.
That 10-year period. It was a mind-boggling. I mean, it was, ¿cómo te puedo decir? It was the peace, love, soul movement. La raza, viva la raza, Chicano
right.
power, black power. There was so much that, as me and my brother and my sister and my dad saw, we saw that there was la bandidos, there was the hell angels, había de todo.
Yep.
And then I remember in 1963, that's when they assassinated John F. Kennedy. Cuando lo asesinaron.
Yes.
And boy, that was a big thing in Califas. And all of a sudden, when they did the assassination of Martin Luther King, that came out to be pure, because I mean, they were burning stuff, and we got to see all that. And what had happened is my dad had made that decision to say, hey, we got to leave, porque the gang movement that we have. I wonder if my brother hears this, he's going to remember something, and this name was called the Black Shadows.
Right.
Esa era parte de la ganga that we were in, the Black Shadows. And we were growing up like that. And my dad had made that decision, is that while we were growing up, we probably would have been in prison, or we would have been dead if we would have stayed there. So
because you would have became part of the protests,
not just the protest, part of the gang, and part of everything that of that time period that we had. Because you got to remember, that was Vietnam también. There was a lot of protesting and everything in that one period that we lived in Fresno, California.
Right.
And so the thing that was weird is that that's when Dad had decided to move back to Bryan, Texas.
But what did these two activists have an impact on you?
To this day, well, the impact that they gave me is that as I saw with my own eyes and saw how the leadership that they had, how they protested, how they fought for us and everything, I think it stayed inside of me. Because I do the same thing here in Bryan, and
that's why I brought this up, because this reminds me of you.
Yeah, this right here. That's why I get involved in the community.
Right.
That's why I try to do what I try to do to help out, nuestra raza, and not just the Hispanic community, but the community itself. Mm-hmm. Because the reason is that I knew how it was. And there were a lot of questions, Manuel, when I was growing up in my life, and some people can relate to this, and I bet you can too, because the reason is that what they did, Dolores and Cesar, is they planted seeds for all of us to become more successful in life. And the value of education, which we'll talk about later on. Right. But the thing is that how they instilled us to speak up, to ask questions. Why can't we do this? And we need to do this, and the important to fight back. But it wasn't fighting back with fists. It was fighting back with your knowledge, your education, how you could do non-violent and still get the same results out of it. It's going to take a little longer, but you know what? You don't have to go up there and fight for your rights, pelear y todo. If you use it and you do it right, you can make an impact in the community. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what instilled in me, because when I saw something, when I moved from California back to Bryan, and let me throw something in. My dad and my mom, pasas but in California, they worked at a cleaners. they worked at a cleaners, and I'll mention something later on while we're talking. But they did not just the peaches and the grapes. They worked at a cleaners also.
Okay.
They had like 3 to 4 jobs because ya tenían familia.
Right.
And we had a tragedy on while we were there in Fresno. Mi tío Beto, he got in a car accident from Monterrey, going back to Fresno, and he got killed. And it impacted my dad a lot. And so it was weird because, after all, how we saw all the stuff that was going on, the movement, everything like that. We moved back to Bryan, and then when I got here to Bryan, I went to Bowie School. And I remember while we were in Bowie School, I remember the first year that I was at Bowie School, way back then, they had Bowie School and Anson Jones were Hispanic schools. Carver and Carver Kemp and Kemp were African American schools, the black schools. And Lamar and Stephen F. Austin were the white schools.
So you're saying that there was segregation?
There was segregation. And so when I moved from
what year do you move back to Bryan?
I must have been in 66, como dije, somewhere around there, because it was like I was 9 or 10.
Okay.
But la cosa es,
But you're talking elementary, right?
Yeah,
you're
elementary.
Elementary school.
And what had happened, here's the thing, here's what happened, is that at that time, segregation came in.
Mm-hmm.
Segregation came in, and so they started.
60s, yeah.
Yeah, they started mixing us all up. Everybody, it was coming in, and yo viniendo de Califas, I had already experienced all the movement that I saw.
Right.
Because remember, I mentioned the Black Panthers, Viva la Raza, Chicano Power, and everything that came in. I already saw all that. And then when I came over here, it was like, like they mixed it all in. And había pleitos and everything. But it was weird because I also felt discrimination back then. Because
tell me about that.
Well, there were certain places like gas stations, that I remember that at gas station, and when you put gas, and when you walk to the bathroom, it had white, color, and male, white, and color. It had 3 doors. And I always ask my dad, ¿por qué tienen eso? No puedes entrar ahí, mijo. You can't walk inside there.
Oh, okay. He would tell you that.
And he would tell me that. And then we would go to restaurants. And there were certain restaurants that I won't mention, but there were certain restaurants way back then that you couldn't eat in the diner. You had to eat in the back.
Wow.
And I remember growing up as that. And then when we got all mixed in, you got to remember one thing, Manuel. I was learning how to speak Spanish before I even spoke English.
Right.
Porque mis papás eran de México y hablaban puro español. And then in Califas, on the fields, era puro español. So when I got over here, I was talking more in Spanish than I didn't know English.
Right.
And then I remember when I was at Bowie School, I got myself in trouble because of speaking Spanish. And I remember one time, that we were speaking Spanish, and I got hit. There was a principal, Mr. Davis, que conocí, and I don't ever know whatever happened. He's probably passed away a long time ago because, I was young at that time. And what had happened is that he spanked me, but he spanked me with the paddle that had holes.
I remember those.
for speaking Spanish, man.
Wow.
And then after that, what had happened is that remember I grew up in an environment where there was a lot of violence, a lot of stuff going on, and a lot of movement from California.
Right.
And when I got here, I brought that with me. And so
right, that's the impact that they had on you, right?
That has the impact on me. And so what had happened is that my dad took me out of boys' school, and he stuck me in at St. Joseph Catholic School, con las monjitas. Yeah, and he put me in there, and while I was there, it was very small. It only went to the 8th grade. But, you know, the funny thing about it, Manuel, is that I remember that Father Mike and Father Tim Valente, which, as I mentioned when they did a documentary on PBS, is that he was my mentor. He was my role model. He was everything to me, Father Tim Valente. He's the one who basically changed my life with Sister Lauren and Sister Carmel. And Father Mike, they took me underneath and put me in their wings, and they taught me how to start reading and writing, which you know, it was sad, but la cosa es, it was like in the 5th grade when I started to, you know, start English and learning the English and writing it, porque it was puro español, you know. And we didn't have the reading and writing in Califas where you would sit down and you would write and everything like that, because we were at a park, man, you know. A bunch of kids, they just wanted us to make sure they wanted us to say, hey, look, we're giving them education. And so the thing is that when I came back over here, I faced those challenges, and I faced a lot, and so I still lived in the barrio, in, you know, West Side Bryan, and grew up on the street of McCullough, and we used to say we were McCullough All Stars, and you know, when there was Monterey Street, and you know, you had a thing, but being around that environment at one time, you know, people didn't talk about going to college. People didn't talk about where you're going to go to college or what you were going to do. But at St. Joseph,
I grew up in the 80s, and we still didn't talk about that.
and then what had happened is that as we were growing up, and I was growing up in everything after I got out of St. Joseph, is that we went to Stephen F. Austin because it only went to the 8th, and then Bryan High School. And, you know, I always had that leadership aspect because I was the captain of the football team at St. Joe over the year. And then when I went to Bryan High, I was the president of the Mexican American Club. And so, you know, I always had that leadership.
Right, that activist mentality.
The mentality, and that Dolores and Cesar, them, instilled in me. A lot of people didn't know all that.
That was the impact that they had.
That was the impact, that seed que plantaron.
Exactly.
And then after that, you know, Father Tim was still in my life, and then it was something that this person, and you know, it was Doris Davila. You know, Arturo Davila and Ralph Davila, and they had a sister named Bonnie Pasescanse. She passed when she was a senior, but Doris and I were really good friends, and you know, we used to hang around at this little place called the Dairy Treat there on William Joe Bryan, that Mr. Joe Salazar used to run it. And we would always hang out there. And
what was it called?
Dairy Treat or something like that. I can't remember. They're going to be laughing at me if they hear this. But we used to hang out there. And then what had happened is that Doris had said, "Hey, where are you going to go to college?" And I went to Father Tim and I said, "Hey, Father Tim, they want me to go to college." And he said, "Yeah, we want you to go to college." And so Doris kind of influenced me to go to Texas State in San Marcos. And so I went there and got into Jackson Hall, and I tried out for the baseball team, and I made it with David Medina. Now it's a Texas Supreme Court judge. David Medina was my roommate. and Steve Hardy and Roy Amazan, and there was I met some really good friends there. I really met, but then I got hurt and didn't last too long at on baseball at Texas State. We were the first ever to play baseball to make that team. I called ourselves the Bad News Bears because no aliamos nada.
But y'all were playing.
We were playing baseball, man. And then after that, after I got hurt, I called Dad and no había dinero. Didn't know anything about financial aid. Did not know anything about anything.
And we're going to talk about that
and then what had happened is that I called Father Tim back again, and I said, Father Tim, I'm dropping out of school. And he said, nope, you're not going to drop out of school. You're going to come to Texas A&M. And you got to remember, back in 1978, 77, 78, I graduated from Bryan High in 1977. So back in 78, ¿qué pasó? Que no había mexicanos at A&M, very little. Okay. Very little Hispanics, very little of everything. And A&M was an eye-opener for me because what A&M did to me when it was bring me back as a child, as I grew up with segregation, discrimination, racism, y todo, porque A&M at that time was all white school, dominated, all white. And so
when did you decide to attend Texas A&M?
Back in 1978.
Like right when you stopped going to Texas State,
right after
you decided to immediately.
Father Tim said.
And Father Tim gave you that
incentive, and got my application, got everything, and got accepted to Texas A&M University, and went into at that time it wasn't it was called the School of Business. It wasn't the Mays Business School, but it was called the School of Business, and so that's what I graduated. Got my BBA in management from A&M in 1982.
Was it difficult as a Hispanic attending Texas A&M?
Oh, very, very difficult.
What were your
man? It's
difficulties?
The difficulties is that you would be the only Hispanic in the classroom. And then you had group teams and everything, and basically there were a lot of kids that at that time did not want me in the group. Basically you had to do all your homework, everything by yourself, and you would talk to the professor and y todo, but he couldn't. They couldn't force somebody to accept you, and so there were a lot of challenges in our part that were at Texas A&M. I as going there, I saw a lot of stuff that reminded me of what I grew up with as a child. Porque I remember B1 unit was running with the rebel flag, and they would hang it out on the window. I saw the KKK, Ku Klux Klan, at A&M. I saw one time they were throwing rotten eggs at when President Obama was running for president. And then they came back to this guy. I forgot who the speaker was for the KKK when they brought him back. I forgot what this guy's name was. And then they had a big rally at Kyle Field, and they had brought bands and everything because they didn't want to have the A&M to start the fights, with the KKK. And I remember seeing them march. And then there was a lot of hurdles at that time for the African American and the Hispanics at Texas A&M, porque unless you already had someone that was educated and went through there, they would tell you how the system was. But if you were a first generation and you had a mom and dad that not know anything, you were completely lost.
Right.
And that's what happened to me. I was lost, man. I was lost in an all white school that I wasn't accepted. I remember one day we were I was in in the classroom, and this core guy came up to me, and I remember he said, Mexicans do not belong at A&M. You need to go back to Mexico. And won't tell you the whole story, how it ended, but, you know, la cosa es, the guy later on had respect for me.
Right.
Porque
how were you able to stay focused and finish Texas A&M?
How I stayed focused is that they challenged me. Remember, I was always a leader.
Right.
I would never give up. I've never let a hurdle or never let a dream. I never let anything hold me back. I was one of those young men that que tú me dijeras que no podía, I would find a way to do it. And A&M would be the firecracker in me. I mean, they would push those buttons, and I would say,
you would rise above
it, just like what Cesar and Dolores did.
Right.
They rose above it, and I wanted to get that education. I wanted to be the first to graduate from the west side of McCullough Street and everything like that. And I wanted to prove, not to them but to myself, that I could do it and graduate from Texas A&M University, and I did. I graduated, and you know, I got my Aggie ring and got my maroon coat. And
1982.
In 1982.
Wow.
And so.
And what was your major?
Business administration and management. And so the thing is that, but I seen A&M change in many positive ways. It's not hasn't been a fast way, but you know, as growing up there and I mean studying there and everything, we'll talk about this when we get in the education aspect, but like I say, is it taught me a lot about who I was going to be, where was I going to be, and what was I going to be in life. Right. Because the thing is that if I made it through A&M, I could make it through life.
Right.
Because I faced a lot of stuff at Texas A&M University that it was unreal.
You guys hearing that?
You know, it was something that.
What are your favorite memories attending Texas A&M?
Oh,
there's got to be happy memories.
Oh, I got, you know, no crees que it was all that, but you know, the happy memories of me while I was there at Texas A&M is that I got to meet other raza, you know, like Paul Limon, Delfa Soto, other ones from different areas that I got to meet. And I remember that there was Daniel Hernandez and some of them that were there. They started part of this young group called CAMAC, Committee of Mexican American Culture. And so we brought.
Does that still exist today?
Yeah, it still exists to this day. And then I remember we used to meet in a little apartment. And one time we brought little Joe and Johnny La Familia to the Driwali White Coliseum.
Wow.
and stuff. You know, those were the good memories that we would get together, and we would have our own little parties and our own little things, and you could count the raza that was at A&M and those who attended the party, and you know, you had a lot of them. You know, I'll mention Dr. Roger Martinez. You know, I did not know Roger. I met him when I became a recruiter, but he was in the Corps. You know, there were Paul Limon was in the Corps. There were other Mexicanos that were part of the Corps. I didn't want him to be a part of the Corps, man. I never wanted somebody to yell at me. Right. You know, que me va a gritar y que un gabacho gritarme. No, man. I wasn't to that part of that, because I still had the Viva la Raza Chicano power,
right,
and I still had that.
Still had that mentality.
That mentality. I was going to let no gringo come up to me and tell me, yell me, give me 10 y todo el jale. No, I wasn't. Yeah, I wasn't going to do all that. But you know, it's the good memories of everything is that at the very end, I have to give the credit to Texas A&M for like I said, for building me who I am today. Mm-hmm. I guarantee you that not wearing just your Aggie ring, but graduating from there and everything, that well, being who I am, there were a lot of people respecting me because they go, he graduated from Texas A&M University. How many Mexicanos do you know that graduated back in 1982? Mexicanos from Bryan College Station. So there was a lot of respect. There was a lot of, he must be a smart young man, for graduating from Texas A&M, because a degree from A&M back then was a big thing.
It was, because me growing up as well, I didn't know a whole lot of Hispanos that had an A&M degree. Probably Rosalinda, or I don't know if you remember Rosalinda. She was an advisor as well.
A Gayen?
Yeah.
Oh, you're talking about the Rosalinda Gayen Valdez?
Valdez, yeah.
Yeah, Rosalinda. Oh man.
She was our next door neighbor on 28th Street.
Oh, Rosalinda would call me up all the time.
Right.
Pasas cancer, but she had that rap, Roy. Yeah, she had that. Rosalinda. Roy, ¿cómo estás, Roy? She was a very beautiful person, because you know what, she cared about people. She cared about her job. She cared about what she was doing with young people. You could tell about Hispanics that querían ayudar a la raza, and Rosalind Gayen was one of them. Yeah, she would call me all the time with Javier Aldape, because that's who Aldape introduced me, because she was in the College of Liberal Arts, and she Pasas cancer. She passed away at a young age, but like I say, she did a lot.
Okay, yeah. Well, let's change it up a little bit, and let's talk about Emiliano's nightclub.
Oh man,
those were your music years, right?
Those were the days.
Right. When do you and your family decide to open Emiliano's nightclub? Because that was a big Tejano scene.
Yeah. Well, let's see. I want to say back in 81, 80, 82, probably around, Dad opened up Emiliano's, which was a cantina, a little cantina. It was just a small bar that had...
But your dad at the time owned Cleaners.
Yeah. Right. Now, he opened that in March the 11th, 1972, on my mom's birthday. And he told me 1972. We've been there now 54 years at the Cleaners. Wow. That's how long the Cleaners has been, 54 years. And the thing is that he wanted to open up a grocery store. That was, he said, hey, vamos a abrir una tiendita y vendemos cosas. And at that time, I was already in the music business. I started hanging around with Ignacio Castillo, Yayo Castillo, Lupe Carmona, and they would call a group called Latin Express. Okay. And we used to go to Houston and play at the Island Club in Denver, and at that time I got to know a lot of Tejano groups, because I used to go with Ignacio and Yayo and Lupe Carbona and all of us. We would go every weekend. Every week we would go to Houston to play, or Austin. And we would always play Pasadena and then go to Seguin, which we called it Saigon, Texas, because they used to have the Fiesta Ballroom back then. And then Pasadena had the Presidente Ballroom, and and I used to hang around and go play, and then so. I convinced my dad to list. There was the cantina, and then there was the Cleaners, and there was a space in between, and it was just a dirt space. And I told Dad, let's open up a nightclub, Dad. I know I can get some groups to come and play, Dad. I know. And I said, let's make it bigger. And instead of Emiliano's Bar, let's call it Emiliano's Nightclub. After you, Dad, after your name, Emiliano's. Let's keep it Emiliano's Nightclub. And he agreed with it. And my brother, boy, if those walls could talk, híjole. But let me explain to you. At that time, when Emiliano's opened up, I had already been spreading the rumor that I was going to open up this nightclub, and I had already talked to Emilio Navaira, which was with David Lee and Ram, with David Lee también, and you know, a lot of the lead singers that David Lee came out and they started, you know, playing on them, writing their own bands. And then you go Gary Hobbs, and then Yo Fandango, and then, you know, I started, and then started getting to know them more. And then I grew up in the Tejano because way back then, the Fiesta Ballroom, I think you had Caroline here, Sweet Caroline, her dad, Richard. And everything, Paz Descanse, but they had a little committee there, and they would bring Jimmy Edwards, and they would bring, you know, these bands there. But the thing is, I already kind of knew a little bit about them, you know, and so that was the older band, Ruben Ramos, and then you had Agustin Ramirez, and, you know, Güero Porcas, and Snowball Express, and you had, you know, I got to get to know all them. But then there was another generation coming in, your Joe Posada, Grupo Ternura, Fandango USA, Pio Trevino and Magic, La Febre, you know, so I got to meet all those guys. And so what had happened is that I had their numbers, I had everything, and so I would tell them, hey, come and play at my club. But there was one artist that sticks out of everybody, and there was, I remember we were at the Pasadena Ballroom, at the Presidente Ballroom in Pasadena, and I was with David Lee Garza and Rumors with Latin Express, and we opened up for David Lee. No, well, it started off like this: Salina Quintanilla and Los Dinos opened up. And then Latin Express, and then David Lee Garza, and then finished it off. And so that's how I got to meet Salina. And
she must have been really young.
Oh, she was like 14 years old. And I met Abraham. And I said, hey, Abraham, I'm going to be opening up a club in 2 more months or 3 more months. Por favor, you know, I want her to come and play. So I said okay. He said okay, and then what had happened is that I called them up. They lived in Corpus, and they came down in a little small van and everything. And he was driving, and you know, they set up. And they didn't have Chris Perez or anything. They had Jesse, and they didn't even have Pete Astudillo. They didn't have Don. They didn't have anybody. It was just regular Salina y Los Dinos, and they were all young. And so they came in, and so we only charged like $5, $5.
How did they sound back then?
Oh man, they were very talented. That's why I wanted to.
I didn't see them at a young age.
They were very, very, very talented. Matter, ahorita te digo, but when I brought them here for the very first time, they've never been here, Bryan, before. Emiliano's nightclub was the first time that Salina ever stepped in Bryan, Texas, and she played with me. And so the thing is, I got to become really good friends with them, and they were very talented, very, very talented. So many stuff, so many stories that I have with Salina. A lot of people come up to me, hey, you don't have pictures of her? Well, I never thought that she was ever going to be famous, never thought about anything like that. And I wasn't going to carry one of these little cameras with me. Salina, let's take a picture. You know, I was a dude. I was a guy. You know, that wasn't, you know, thinking about that. But I could tell you a lot of stories.
No cell phones back then.
No cell phones. No nothing. But I could tell you a lot of stories about Salina that to me is that I have a lot of memory. Matter of fact, there were a lot of people from Bryan. You know, I remember there was Augie Gomez and Baby Earl and David Big C, Roy Garcia, Paz Descanse, and a lot of them. We would all, after Salina would play, we would all go to Whataburger. She loved Whataburger, man. After the gig, you know, I couldn't go because we had to load up and everything, but like that. But when she first played, she had around 11 people to show up, and man, she put it on the show. And then Abraham said, hey, can we keep on coming back? And I said, yeah, keep on coming
because
back.
They would show up, and later on, they showed up in a big bus.
Yeah, well, the very first bus that they ever had didn't have any seats on it. It was a brown bus.
Yes, I remember that. I remember seeing the bus outside of Emiliano's once a month, probably.
Yeah, it was once a month. They played with me for like 4 years.
Yeah.
It was once a month that they played, and
a lot.
And a lot. And so, there were songs that they wrote for the Amor Prohibido album, and then Bidi Bidi Bom Bom. That song has a story behind it too. I don't know if you know that story. That story came out of Little Bitty Bubbles. The song called Bitty Bitty Bubbles, Bitty 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 Bubbles. That's how that song started off. And then Selena started growing, and at the very last, when Abraham told me that Selena could not play here no more, I already knew it. She had gotten too big. For the place. For the place. Right. No, she was on the road. She was going on the crossover and everything. And then what had happened is that Miss Julia Ramirez came into the picture. But before I mentioned Julia, Selena and my mom and my dad, we were very close. I would go there and they would come in, and Brandy Lopez, my niece, she was very close to Selena. But Selena at one time got a jacket, a blue jean jacket, and she went to my mom and she said, do you have safety pins? And so she put safety pins in all through the whole jacket, in front and back and the arms and everything, and she wore that night to play.
At the performance.
Yeah, because the lights would hit it and it would kind of glitter. But then, let's go back, and then Julia came in to the picture, Miss Ramirez, and Miss Ramirez had a very beautiful relationship with Selena, because Selena always wanted to be a fashion stylist, a stylist of clothing and everything, and Miss Ramirez had that, that talent.
Right, she made a lot of uniforms for a lot of bands.
Not just bands. They're in California, a lot of artists and stuff like that. So it was big. I don't. And then they were still young, but like I say what had happened is that after she grew out of Emiliano's, she went straight and she started playing at the Fiesta Ballroom. And then from there, Selena just got bigger and bigger. And then what had happened is that one Sunday, Miss Ramirez, I remember talking to Miss Ramirez, and she told me that she had called Abraham to see if to bring Selena to Bryan College Station in March. I forgot what day it was. I think it was on a Sunday on the 15th. I'm just going to say I can't remember, but what had happened is that Abraham had told Miss Ramirez, no, Bryan is no longer. But Selena knew that the seed of her success was planted here, in Bryan.
It was right after the Alamo.
Yeah, it was.
The Astrodome.
It was planted here, and she gave us the last opportunity for Bryan College Station to see her. And here's the funny thing about it. The funny thing about Selena was I was the first one to ever bring her, and then that night I was one of the last people to ever see her, because when she was leaving, let's go back. So she agreed to come and play, but she wasn't feeling well that day in the bus and everything. And I was talking to Abraham, and he was like, "Oh, Roy, she's not feeling well and everything." And I said, "Okay," but I did say, "Hey," I did see her, and I said, "Hey, Selena, I hope you feel better and hope to see you pretty soon and everything." And she told me that she was going to be in Sábado Gigante con Francisco. And she had just did a movie, Don Juan, or a movie that she had said, "Hey, I'm going to be this," and she says, "I'm so sorry, but I'm not feeling well, Roy." And I said, "Okay," gave her her hug, and then I said goodbyes to her, and then that week, the week after, so it was in March, it was in April, April 15th or something, like the week after the week after that, because what had happened is 2 weeks pasó, and on hold back, because she died on March 31st. 31st. So it was March the 15th, somewhere around there, and then what had happened is that she had passed away, and so that was a sad moment.
Yeah.
And then we did a lot of my leadership came out. It was funny, but a lot of people didn't realize and know this, is that I wrote a letter to Governor Bush, because Governor Bush was the governor of the state of Texas. Mm-hmm. And then what had happened is we did a petition and everything. We were outside the Fabulosa when Felix Torres and everything, and we did this visual on Salina.
Right.
And then I had petitioned to do a statue of Salina in Corpus Christi. And then what had happened is that, what's his name, Ben or somebody, one of the senators out of Corpus, wrote me back, I already started it. I wasn't going to get into the politics stuff on it. But they did that on Ocean Drive, the Salina statue and everything. And, man, we had a lot of people. I still have that letter that came out where I wrote the governor and stuff. But, Salina was very special. Right. She was a purified young lady that, unfortunately,
great voice, great artist,
great everything, great artist, everything, and only the good die young. They always remember that song, only the good die young, and Pobrecita, she passed away in the beginning of her life. But going back to the Emiliano's nightclub, I brought a lot of groups, man.
A lot.
I brought from one of my favorite groups was Arturo Montes y Grupo Tornura. They were really, really good. Fandango USA con charanga, and then you had La Sombra, Pio Trevino, La Febre.
And Tejano bands, they had great musicians.
Oh, man.
They had great musicians.
You didn't have synthesizers and this thing like Bad Bunny. You couldn't even understand what he's saying, And Bad Bunny, I don't know how he gets paid. He's like, I don't understand what you're saying, dude, but he gets paid.
He gets paid well.
He's getting paid well, so I shouldn't criticize him, because I don't have that type of money, But Tejano music at that time was big. I mean, it was Emiliano's was popping with Tejano groups that were coming left and right, and they would call me, Carotito, hey, we want to play there, because that was one of their favorite spots, because Bryan sí estaba pegando mucho.
Yeah. You had 3 ballrooms. You had La Fiesta, Lulac, and Emiliano's, and they were all packed.
They were packed, but Emiliano's, for some apparent reason, they loved playing, because I designed that club. I put foam inside the walls, and so the acoustic was very, very, very good there.
When do you guys decide to sell Emiliano's?
Oh, we didn't sell it. We just decided to close. Emiliano's, because the reason is that what had happened is that it got to be a toll on all of us.
Right. Late nights,
cleaning,
all that stuff,
because you had to open up at
the next day.
Next day, and it was funny because we used to open up the bar at 7 in the morning. You had Badcock and Wilcock, the night shift. They would come in on Fridays, and the was open at 7, and then you would sell beer and and then everything at 7 a.m. in the morning, and then the bands would come in, load up, and then all of a sudden you got the dance coming up, and so like I say, we did that for a long time, and it took a toll on all of us. And so I decided, Dad and everything, we kind of noticed that it started dying down. Remember E.T.'s El Tejano Ranch?
That's right.
El Tejano Ranch with Steve Rodriguez and his dad and Ross came in, and they opened up El Tejano Ranch, and they started bringing in.
That's right. I remember that now.
They started bringing Tejano music in, and it was popping again. So there's new blood and new everything that came in. But you had Emiliano's and you had El Tejano Ranch, and then we did everything, and all of a sudden, as years started going, and everything like that, Tejano music started fading off a little bit.
Right.
I won't say it died. It just kind of.
Why do you think Tejano faded away? I have my theory, but what is yours?
Well, la cosa es, you started getting people, a lot more people from Mexico were coming from Mexico to United States, and then you had, you can't forget about Don Ramon Ayala,
Right.
Los Tigres del Norte, Los Invasores.
Right.
You started having that norteño, that norteño sound, and what had happened is that norteño sound got to be very, very, very popular.
Right.
And then what had happened is that I had a good friend of mine, and don't take it wrong, but it was like Selena, when she played at the Astrodome, she filled it. She filled the Astrodome. But then remember, she went to Monterrey, and Monterrey is a lot of Tejano, norteño, Tejano. The mafia goes over there.
Yeah, I mean, Monterrey was big on Tejano.
On Tejano,
Yeah.
Monterrey, if you could hear in Monterrey, you could hear anywhere because of Tejano.
Right.
But what had happened is that taste of norteño came to us, and it started taking over la música. And then you started hearing, la sonora de Manita, and then you started hearing other groups.
Yeah, Bronco came in,
and then you have Bronco, and then all of a sudden you saw that trend started changing, and you started seeing the Tejano music kind of fading a little. I won't never say Tejano music is dead, because it's not. It's there, but it's not like what it used to be. And so the thing is that music has changed. Now you have norteño, but now you got banda. Now you got reggaeton. Now you got you got
norteño banda.
Now it's changing. Now you got Bad Bunny. Like I said, these kids y'all look at me like But I mean, the thing is that how would I say it is that you're seeing that new generation, and I really want to say something to you about the music. Music is good for your soul.
It is.
Music is everybody should have music inside, because music can bring joy to you. There's music that can bring you recuerdos. You could say, hey, I remember Caminos de la Vida was one of my mom's favorite songs. Camino de la Vida. When I hear that, it brings me back all the memories. Or I hear Paquita del Barrio, and my dad is the one who snaps on right there, and I'll hear Al Chavarria, and my brother pops in my head, and then I hear Vicente, and I pop in, because the reason is that it's mariachi. So music is important to your body, to your soul. I just wish that all schools would be a mandatory on music, the music schools, and teach, in from elementary to middle school to junior school, to middle schools to high schools, that they should have music, and not just orchestra. They should have accordion. They should have a variety of all kinds of music inside the schools. That's my opinion. But music is really, really good. And but a lot of people going back. A lot of people did not know that. Everybody said Salinas' last performance was at the Astrodome, and it wasn't. It was here in Bryan College Station at Graham Central Station.
Yes.
And thank you, Judah Ramirez, for bringing that to us, because the reason is that that's going to always be in the history books of Salinas' last performance was here in Bryan College Station.
Yes, it was. Well, let's switch it up again. Let's talk about the Las Fiestas Patrias. Okay.
Oh,
when do you and your family decide to start Las Fiestas Patrias here in Bryan, Texas?
1990. In 1990. and we were see way back then. Well, let's. I'm glad you asked me that question because, like I said, there's been some rumors out there, that about the Fiestas Patrias. Back a long time ago, the LULAC.
Right.
You used to bring.
Yeah, I used to dance on those in LULAC.
Fiestas Patrias, and then you had Cameron. I don't know if you remember Cameron. Cameron used to bring Las Fiestas Patrias to Cameron. Man, it was good, man. It was really good. I grew up. We always say, hey, we're going to go to Cameron for Las Fiestas Patrias. And then LULAC had theirs. And then one day I was with my dad and we were talking and estaba JB. You know what? Let's go back before the Fiestas Patrias because I want to give a big shout out and big credit to all the local bands. You had Los Momentos. Yeah. You had the Brotherhoods. You had Tierra Mala. Yeah. You had other groups that Ted Lopez. We had a lot of bands. A lot of bands here in Bryan. A lot of talented musicians.
And a lot of those bands inspired me to become a musician as well.
And you know what? They all were Emilianos. They all played. Yeah. But like I said, I want to make a big shout out to all the local bands that are out there.
Los Momentos
con Junior Reyes and
Richard Rosa.
Richard Rosas. Man, he had a beautiful voice. Yeah. Ted Lopez had a beautiful voice. Robert Tejerina. You had Bad Dirt. Tierra Mala. Jesse Tejerina, and we really had a lot of great musicians here in Bryan that a lot of people do not give credit to. Right. And I wanted to give that big shout out before we go into the Fiestas Patrias.
And I remember all those bands.
Because the thing is that those memories and those families. Paul Ibarra con acordeon. El Suki on the drums. And, those right there. Raven Cerda, Philip Cerda. And Andy Science, you had all that. So a big shout out to all you guys that are out there because you'll never be forgotten. And thank you for bringing the music of bringing it to the Bryan College Station community because you brought a lot of good music to the Hispanic community. Y muchas gracias. Going back to the Fiestas Patrias.
Yeah, why do you start that? What was the goal for Las Fiestas Patrias?
Well, the thing is that my dad and I, remember, my dad didn't speak English very well, and so we were sitting down and we were talking, and I said, Dad, why don't we do a Fiestas Patrias here in Bryan, and everything? I said, we need to do one. And I said, I know all the groups, I know everything like that. And I said, Dad, but can you teach me, cómo es la cortura, and let's get that. Because he did bring me la cortura, because we always would listen to Vicente mariachi music. Right. We would always listen to all that for a very long time. Toda la música rancheras, Javier Solís, Pedro Infante, you had all that beautiful music, Jorge Negrete, there was music that I listened to when I was growing up that my dad and mom listened to, and mambo, and so the thing is that Dad can, when we were growing up, Dad would always do, with my sister and my brother, they would do bailes como baile folklórico. Yeah. So what we did is that I approached Miller Lite and I approached Jim Pillins. And I said, Jim, I'm thinking about doing a festival, and it's called Fiestas Patrias Mexicanas at Bryan College Station. And Fiestas Patrias. And so he says, where do you think you want to plan to do it? And I said, downtown Bryan. And he looked at me and he said, hey, well, you need to do this, go with the city and everything. And so I went to the city and I approached the city and they said, let's do it.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, what kind of support did you get from the city and from the community?
At that time, I got the support because we had it downtown. Mm-hmm. So let's clarify something. My dad and myself were the founders of the Fiestas Patrias for downtown Bryan. Right. Not the Fiestas Patrias of all here because you had Lulac and everything.
And then La Fiesta had them as well.
Yeah, the Fiesta Ballroom. But we were the ones who started that downtown Fiestas Patrias back in 1990. Mm-hmm. And I remember bringing Ram Herrera and bringing some other groups, and I was running back and forth, and I was doing this by myself. I was doing this by myself, and I had Cultura Day. And
you brought Boss and those guys, right?
Yeah, man. I was going back and forth like crazy. And then Greg Rodriguez approached me, and he said, "Why don't you start a committee?" And I said, "Yeah, let's start one. Let's start a committee." And so the thing about it, after 3 years after I was doing the Fiestas Patrias, and my dad, him and I, came in, and I said, "Hey, let's do a parade. Let's kind of start going in, and let's do this." And it started kicking off. It started making bigger, and then Felix Torres started coming in with the Fabulosa, and then we had the beer companies coming in, and Budweiser started coming in, and so the thing about it is that it got to be really, really good. And then I had a little small tragedy in my life, but not a tragedy, but an illness in my life that one day I was at the Fiestas Patrias, and I was just sick as it could be. I was sick. Let's go back. We started the committee, and Greg and Corina Valdez and a lady from Mexico City came in, and we started doing all that. And but I wasn't feeling good one Fiestas Patrias, and found out that I had stomach cancer. Mm-hmm. And so, I had to kind of leave the Fiestas Patrias for a little while because, they operated on me, and they did. And so I kind of left the Fiestas Patrias for a while. And then, I'll give credit where credit is deserved. Alma Villarreal came in to the picture. Greg Rodriguez, and then Greg became the president, and they started doing the Fiestas Patrias. And then later on, Alma Villarreal came in, and she started running the Fiestas Patrias. And then I came back into the picture again to help her out because we were running into some problems that came in. But like I said, again, these past 2.5 years, I was with the Fiestas Patrias, and this last year and this year, I did not participate as much as I did, is because, again, I got diagnosed with prostate cancer. And so
are you battling that right now?
Yeah, I'm battling. I'm still battling that, but I don't like bringing it up too much because the reason is that I don't like negativity. But I did 43 radiation treatments, and so with the Fiestas Patrias, you got to remember one thing, and I want the people from the community, when you see a member from the Fiestas Patrias and you see that, give them a big thank you. Give them a big, big thank you. I know we're easy to criticize and everything, but like I say, is they do it. It's volunteer work. Mm-hmm. They don't get paid for it.
Right.
And the thing about it is it's a lot of hard work.
Right.
It's not easy.
And this is a nonprofit organization.
This is a nonprofit, right? That goes in, and we created scholarships,
right,
for this. That's why I started it.
Right.
I started it because I didn't want to lose la cultura mexicana. To me, la cultura mexicana, growing up in Monterrey and growing up in Fresno and growing up here and having my mom and my dad instill the importance of la cultura mexicana, como el ballet folklorico, el mariachi, and everything like that. I wanted us to keep that tradition going, that culture going, because we're losing it. We're losing it a lot in this community, not just in the community, but all over. Let me ask you a question. ¿Hablan español ustedes?
English.
No, ¿hablas español? ¿Sí o no? ¿Hablas español? ¿Sí o no?
No.
¿Oyes música mexicana de mariachi? ¿Sí o no?
No.
¿No? ¿Tú lo oyes? See what I'm talking about? See, what had happened is that we're losing that culture that we should be very proud of and what we have instilled in us, because the reason is speaking two languages. It's very important.
Right.
And keeping that culture and being proud to be that Hispanic. That's why I do what I did on the Fiestas Patrias, is because I did not want to lose what the beauty of the cultura is. Dia de los Muertos, if you look at it, how they dress. I mean, people here in Bryan haven't really seen what really happens in Dia de los Muertos when you go to Monterrey or to Mexico City, and how they dress and how they do that, and we wanted to instill all that, and that's what I wanted to do, instill back and keep that cultura going, but at the same time to let them know, these young people, these young men and everything, is be proud of who you are, what your heritage is about, what your culture is about, and keep it going, because we don't need this tree.
Right.
We need to keep on planting the seed, and hopefully, with the Fiestas Patrias, it's been done for 32 years now, going on 33. So when I say, please say thank you, because it is a lot of work, a lot of frustration, a lot of arguments, a lot of everything, because the reason is that it all has to come in, with the parade closing down the highway. I remember when I tried with getting the Aggie band, a lot of people said, man, you're never going to get the Aggie band, Roy. They'll never come and go in. And I had a lot of people tell me that I was stupid, But the thing is that I wanted to bring the Aggie band to our community, because the reason why is because there were a lot of kids that have never seen the Aggie band. They've never seen Reveille. They heard about it, but God, how beautiful it is to have the Aggie band. And I give credit to Daniel Hernandez, to the Read My Third program, when he said, hey, can the kids from the Bryan Independent School District, College Station, can they march behind the Aggie band? Man, you got kids now, and you got kids watching the band, the community. Right. So how beautiful it is to start off the parade con las banderas de Mexico, with the United States flag, the Aggie band, and have our cultura to come in. Then you have the festival. And so the thing is that what we need to do with the Fiestas Patrias is continue to support it, and tell those members that you're out there to say, hey, thank you very much for what you do, because it is a lot of hard work.
Yeah, it is. How can someone help or volunteer?
Well, they can go to the fiestaspatrias.org, and we have meetings that we have, and you can become a member. I don't want to go into a lot of it, but the thing is that I encourage. Hopefully by next year, con el favor de Dios, I'll be back into the Fiestas Patrias. I just have to kind of, back off a little bit because of my situation. But I want to go back into and make some more changes to the Fiestas Patrias and bring it up to another level. I think what we need in the Fiestas Patrias is some more changes. We need a lot of changes, but with the changes, it means that we need a lot more people, a lot more members to help out, because, again, like I said, it's a lot of work what we do for the community. Right. And this
is for a scholarship.
Yeah, we give scholarships out to the students. I think it's more than $350,000 the thing, and I give credit for the Hispanic Forum, for what they do también, because it's a lot of work. It's a lot of volunteer work, a lot of hours, a lot of meetings that we do once a month, and trying to organize this and try to get this and get the stage, get the band, get the puestos, work with the city and try to get sponsors and do all that. There's a lot of work that goes behind it, but I just want to remember to let you know that again, and I'll bring it back, that my dad and I started the Fiestas Patrias in downtown Bryan. Yeah, and back in 1990. And congratulations for this year's Fiestas Patrias, and hopefully it becomes a successful one, and we'll just see. And I'm glad that I just want to give credit to someone that's really dear to me and a good friend of mine, Mr. Benadir Joe Ramirez, because without him, I would have never brought the Aggie Band regularly.
Right.
Senor Ramirez, if you're listening to me and you hear this, Benedict, Joe, thank you for what you do in the community of Bryan College Station. You have made an impact in this community, sir, and thank you for bringing the Aggie Band and trusting me to giving me that opportunity to do the West Side. And if you ever have a chance, you need to have Joe Ramirez here and this podcast.
Yeah, send him.
And you could hear his story. He has a beautiful story.
Right, and that's why I did this podcast, to bring all these volunteers and people who impacted our community out. You know, a lot of people don't know these names, and they should, right? And that's why I want to bring you on here and
thank you,
and try to bring other people who mean something to our community.
You know, there's Manuel, there are a lot of people in this community that haven't they do a lot, but they don't get recognized.
Yeah.
You know, Daniel Hernandez, Carla Castillo, General Ramirez. There's businessmen. Business people like Lupe Osteguin, Dixie Tires. You got the Rodriguez's. You have a lot of people that are out there that that should get the credit and everything, because without them, we wouldn't have Hispanic businesses. And I'm glad that they're doing the Hispanic business out there.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about you. Let's talk about some awards that you won. Okay, because you've been recognized more than a few times.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about the first one. Let's talk about the Dolores Huerta Hispanic Heritage Community Award. What is that? What is that about?
I got nominated because she does the Hispanic Heritage Award.
Right, and she gave it to you, right?
She
got
came
to see her again.
Yeah, she flew down from Los Angeles.
Wow.
And she came to Texas A&M, and they had the Hispanic Heritage Award. And she presented that award in front of my dad and my mom. She gave it to me. And the funny thing about it is that I have on my phone, I have pictures with her, and she remembered me. And
send them to me so I can put. You can send them later, but when I edit this podcast, we're going to put them on there.
Yeah, so she gave me the Hispanic Heritage Award, and so she presented that plaque to me. Really, really nice there at A&M in the auditorium where she came in. I didn't know that she was a vegetarian. She's a powerful woman. I mean, powerful, and she gave me that award. And also at the same time, as that was just one award, but she also was a Jefferson Award recipient.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to talk about it in a minute, because the next one was the Star Award.
Star Award.
You were the first Hispanic to receive this award.
I was
correct?
the first. Not
Tell
just
me about the Star Award.
It wasn't just the first Hispanic. I was the first person to ever receive the Star Award.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
in the state of Texas.
Wow.
It was because I did financial aid. It was this star is about financial aid. Is because what had happened is that as growing up, as you notice, one of the things I talk about, because I love education. That's my topic. Education is my topic. And what it was is that the Star Award is that when how I got that is that I started working for a company called Greater East Texas Higher Education Authority. And what had happened is that I started learning about financial aid, about the FAFSA, about other stuff, the student loans and everything. Remember in the beginning of the conversation is unless you knew somebody that went to college, they know the system. Right. And the ones who never know anything, were first generation, que no sabemos nada. Well, that's what happened with me.
That was me.
That was me. Yeah. And I started approaching, and I started letting people know that, how important it was to fill out the FAFSA, how to get this and how to start doing that. And so I started working for a company called Greater East Texas, which was a wing of the Department of Education. And we were in the secondary market, which is student loans. And I started to learn more about the process of financial aid. And man, I started telling kids left and right, saying, hey man, do you know there's free money to go to college? Do you know that there's this and you know that? because I had to pay for my college. My parents had to, and here's another big shout out to Roy Salceda, Salceda Construction, because he would let me work. He would let me work on the summers in construction to make money to pay for my college. But la cosa es I got to know all that, and then when I moved into the financial aid office at Texas A&M, after leaving Greater East Texas, there was a guy named Dr. Roger Martinez and Lynn Barnes, and so they started picking my brain out because with Arnold Trejo. And they started picking out my brain because they go, man, how do you know so much about all this, and why, you know this and everything. And so what had happened is that I got to the part where I told Arnold Trejo, let's make an outreach program here at Texas A&M. And well, let's and Arnold started picking my brain out. And so what we did is that we opened up offices throughout the whole state of Texas, having A&M have representatives, admissions officers in Houston and El Paso and Dallas and San Antonio, the Valley, and Austin and everything. And Arnold and everything, they started building all that. But I would tell Mexicanos, hey man, we're missing out on this. So when the Start Award came out, is that they nominated me, and man, I had recruited so many kids that they said, man, you're a star. You're like a star, because I would go into high schools and everybody would know who I was. That not to say, I'm not trying to brag or nothing, but a lot of the schools, because I covered the whole state of Texas, they would go, man, we want Mr. Lopez. He knows about his stuff, and everything about scholarships and how to do this, and then we created what we call the TASFA. They started working where if you were undocumented, where you could still go to college and get state aid instead of federal aid. And so I got that award. And so, yes, I was the first Hispanic and the first to ever receive.
What year was that?
Oh, man.
Was it
2000
recently?
2004.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, 2004.
Oh.
And then
20 years ago.
Yeah, and then after that, I was the second Hispanic to receive the John J. Coldus Award.
Right.
Now, that was a big award.
That's faculty and staff achievement.
That's a faculty and staff, because the reason is, man, I, as a recruiter for Texas A&M, I loved it. I love working with students, young people, because it's all the challenges. While we were talking,
you went through that.
I went through all that.
Right.
I went through that, and I had promised myself that I wasn't gonna, how they say, don't leave a child behind. Right. So the thing is that I wasn't gonna do that, man. I was gonna make sure that if you cross my path, I was gonna try to get you an education. And then I did some stuff that you wouldn't believe. I mean, I was at it's the Robert E. Lee High School in Houston, and I was with Roseanne Blanco, and she was the head of the LULAC National Education Service. Wow. We started. So going back, do we have a lot of time?
No, we got plenty of time. I just trying to get
it. So what had happened is that we went to Robert E. Lee, and I was walking in, and I said, "Where's the bathroom?" And he said, "Don't stand by the window." And I'm going, "Okay, why not?" And he said, "Drive-by shootings." And so the thing is, I snapped, man. So I told Roseanne, I said, "I'll be right back, man." And I went, "Hey, is there a funeral parlor around here, man? Close by?" And they go, "Why?" And I said, I just need to know. So I went in there, and it's a true story, man. I went in there, and I got a casket, and I got it delivered to the school, and I put a mirror in it. And I told the kids, we were in the auditorium. I told the principal, I said, let them walk through there, front, right, on the stage, and let them walk around. And nobody knew what the hell I was doing. Everybody, they was just like, the principal was looking at me and everything like that. And I remember I put the mirror in there.
To look at themselves.
To look at themselves. And I gave a speech, man, that that through my experience and everything like that, I said, I want you to look to the left. I want you to look to the right. I want you to look in front of you, and I want you to look behind you. Then I want you to close your eyes. And I said, just remember who's the last person you saw. This could be you. Y'all can laugh. I said, people were laughing and giggling.
Right.
I said, but do you know something? That's you inside this casket. And what you have here in this school is that you are killing yourselves because you're wearing the wrong colors, or you're doing this, or you're doing that, is because it was one of the worst schools there was. And I said, you know, there's probably nobody in the school that ever stood up in front of you to say, you have hope and we believe in you. And so I had the gift of, like, the gab, or the gift of whatever it was, but venía por la experiencias from where I was coming from, because the reason is I wanted these kids to change. Well, when I got through all this, they gave me a standing ovation.
Yeah.
And because no one's ever talked to them like I did. I had kids crying.
Right. Nobody had ever been real with them.
Yeah, nobody's ever. Yeah, that's the word.
Right.
I didn't think about it that way, but nobody's ever been real. And then we started bringing, and then after that, I started hanging around with Olga Solis, and then Roseanne, and everybody. And then we started doing the Hispanic Forum in Houston, where what we would do is do a college fair. And we would have it in these little places, and we would bring colleges and everything. And then later on, Olga Solis and Roseanne, everything, we started doing the George Brown Convention Center, where we started busing in 17,000
Wow.
kids and feeding them lunch.
Wow.
I was part of that organization. So la cosa is, we would go in there, and man, it was a blast to see the Houston ISD with 17,000 kids, man, come in on a Saturday at the George Brown, and we had guest speakers and lunch for them and have everything like that.
Would you target more low income?
Yes,
kids?
low income students, first generation students, kids that
Immigrant
that came in that didn't have any hope in life, man.
Right.
And we would bus in those kids, and it came out to be very, very successful. And then we brought that to Bryan College Station, where we started doing that, and they started bringing college fairs, and they would have it at the high schools. And then we came in and said, why don't we have one at the Brazos Center? And we started bringing that into the Brazos Center, and then now they have one at Relis, and you know. And so it was all instilled where, just to let you know, these young kids that you have here, they can't have an excuse to say there's no opportunity and there's no resources, because there's resources out there. You just got to make time for you to start doing this.
Exactly.
And that's why it's so important when people ask me, when is a good time to start? You know when a good time to start is? When your kids start school. You as a parent need to get involved in their education, from elementary to middle school into high school. You need to be there. The teachers are there to teach, but you as a parent need to be involved. That way what happens is that you know what they're taking, what kind of honor courses, what kind of curriculum they're doing, what were you doing. Because the reason is that if we go back, Manuel, do you always remember, my dad always instilled in this in us. He said, yo no quiero que trabajes tan duro, mijo. He says, don't work so hard. Put your mind in your education and not the hard labor. And they said, I don't want you to work as hard as I was doing. I want to give you this education. That way you don't have to work as hard as I do, como burro. And you know, and they worked at 3 to 4 jobs. And this day you see families doing the same thing. And so the thing is that when you picked out the topic of education, we as Hispanics or we as minorities have to work twice as hard to get where we're going today.
It is.
We
Yeah,
have to
that's true.
study. We
That
have
is
to
true.
study as hard. We work as twice as hard. Everything because the reason is that we don't put education first, man. And please, nobody get mad at me or anything. We
Well,
look,
those are the facts.
we look at material. What type of material that we want? A nice house. We want the nice car. We want everything. ¿Y el estudio qué? What happened to the education? It's important that you invest in your child, the education.
Right. So, what is the Hispanic presence at Texas A&M at the moment?
What do you? Oh man. So, so when I became a recruiter, I wish Aldape was here, but I hired Javier Aldape, and I told Javier Aldape, I said, Aldape, Texas A&M has, okay, are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
When we started back, they had like 0.5%, not even 2% Hispanics at A&M.
Right.
And then you had like 0.5% of African Americans or Latin. And then later on, it started going to 7% Hispanics and African American 3%. And it stayed for a long time, 3%, 5%. But I always told Aldape, says, as long as I'm a recruiter, yo lo voy a atascar con puro mexicano here at A&M. I'm going to fill this bad boy up with nothing Hispanics. And before I retired at Texas A&M, lo doy gracias a Dios, mi Diosito, that with the impact of with the Valley and El Paso and San Antonio with Janie Alcala and everybody, Tricia Cisneros and from El Paso, everything, we became a national Hispanic institution recognized through the Department of Education, that we are now at 28 to 29% Hispanics at Texas A&M University.
From 5.
From 5%, man.
Wow.
And
that
that right there is that's when I said I'm going to retire, because like I say is I did my job, and I recruited a lot of Hispanics, but we still have a lot of work, Manuel.
Yeah. Is there an education gap?
Oh yeah, there's
What are the challenges Hispanics face going to college?
investment money.
Okay.
That's it. That's the biggest question. I have no
Probably
money.
debt, probably.
Yeah, I'm in debt. I don't want to get in debt. I want free money. I want scholarships. I want everything. And but like I say, it doesn't work that way. We as parents, including you and me, we have to save for our child's education. Once your child is born, you need to set up a fund for your child to get an education. Mm-hmm. You need to start every month while they're between 1 through 18. You need to start investing in there. There's the college education fund. There's other stuff that you can put in there to help you out when they graduate, that they have a lower tuition cost, and there's things like that you can invest in for your child to go to college. And you can start at an early age where you putting money in and everything, and it locks the tuition, where it's going to be at, no matter what college they go to. The Texas Tuition Fund, and now it's called something else. But the thing about it is that we need to invest in that and set that like that for it. I'm just going to say 401k, but it's the education that you need to invest, because the reason is that we don't invest in our children.
Do you think that it's cultural?
Yes.
It's more family responsibility. Right out of the high school, they want your kids to work so you can help out the family.
The majority of them,
a lot of that's cultural. Right?
That's a cultural thing. The majority, that's what happens. The majority, they. But the thing about it is this: I can ask these questions to these young men and be very honest about it. What do you want to do? What do you want to major in? Where do you want to go to college at? And what are your plans for the next? You're in the 11th grade, right? 12th grade. So you're about to graduate in the next 8 months. What plans, what foundation have you established?
I want to go to Blinn,
Okay.
and then I want to transfer to A&M.
And what do you want to major in?
Construction science.
Okay, construction science. All right, question. Have you already talking to representatives and you already started that?
No,
Be honest about it.
No, I haven't yet.
You haven't. This is a good thing.
Mhm.
See, that's what they need to do. They need to start planning and getting to know what they're going to major in. You need to go and ask them, are they programs that I can go into construction science and find out if I really want to major in that major? Are there camps that I could go to? Who's the advisor for the construction science? What department is it in there? What scholarships do y'all give? What do I have to do to get academic scholarships? Those are all the questions that need to be
Right.
that need to be heard, but it needs to come from not just from him, but from the parents. I mean, they need to get involved together, and that's the beauty of it. But I got some advice for y'all. So you said you want to go to Blinn, and he's at Blinn already.
Yes.
So what happens is that, here's the thing. What's his name?
Alex.
Alex. Have you already talked to the construction person at A&M, the advisor at A&M?
A&M, not yet.
Not yet. Okay. So that's a problem. That's a problem. And the reason, here's the problem, is that he knows that he's going to go to Texas A&M University. So I'm giving you an hypothetical, situation. So what happens is Alex is going to say, hey, I'm going to go to construction science, but I only met with the advisor at Blinn.
Mm-hmm.
So what he really needs to do is talk to the construction science advisor, whatever college that he's planning to go to, because they'll give them a prerequisite list.
Right.
And that prerequisite list that he has, those is the courses that he would take for him to transfer into the construction science department. So it's very, very important that Alex is already get that foundation and say, hey, look, here's what A&M gave me. Here's the prerequisite sheets that I need to be taking at Blinn, because you're going to be taking classes at Blinn that are not going to transfer, and all you did was waste your time and your money.
Right.
So it's important that y'all start meeting with the advisors and start meeting with your counselors, especially you're at what school?
Rudder.
Rudder. We have what we call Advise Texas, where the counselor is, where they set your portfolio, they set everything up for you, and that way when you get ready to start school, we have all your application, we got your scholarship application and everything, and it's free.
Right.
So the thing is this is a good time for them starting. And if you notice anything, and I'm glad that you're here, because on the application, when you start your application, they're going to ask you, what have you done from the 9th grade to the 12th grade? So that means, what courses have you taken? What's your class rank? Are you in the first quarter, second quarter, top 10, top 25? Have you taken the SAT, ACT? What have you done to get everything prepared for your last year at Rudder High School?
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of students that come in, they wait till after they graduate to do all this, and it's too late. And that's where we need to instill on the parents that starting in the 8th grade, you need to start planning and meeting with the counselors and start meeting with everything to get that college, to get that application, to get everything going. That way, when they graduate their senior year, they have scholarship applications in, they have their application for their financial aid, your FAFSA or your TASFA, they got your essays done, they have the SAT, ACT, everything's done.
Right. See, that's why I'm glad you're here, because they don't tell us these things. Nobody tells us these things. They never told our parents about it. I went to Blinn when I was 28, because I had to go back. I didn't, like you said, I didn't work hard. So there's nobody who tells us these things, especially in high school, that we have to do that. We're expecting for them to say, hey, this is what you need to do if you want to go to construction science major or whatnot. So how do we get that information out to our Hispanic community?
By doing this,
right?
What we're doing right now.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I'm glad you're here.
This is where we need to talk about. This is where we need to be honest with each other. What type of portfolio? What type of not portfolio? That's the wrong word. What type of foundation have you started setting up for your child? That's the question that I'll ask. The first question I ask mom and dad, because the reason is that right now I get a lot of students, a lot of parents come up to me, and the first thing they do is that I got a good daughter that makes A's and B's and everything, and I need you to give them a scholarship.
Right.
Well, wait a minute.
That's not enough.
Wait a minute. Where are you going to school at? I don't know yet. What do you mean? Well, they haven't started their application. And you want me to give you a scholarship?
Right.
It doesn't work that way. We don't give out the money first and then coming out. You got to.
Well, see, Alex was accepted to 7 colleges, but he decided to go to Blinn because he wanted to transfer to A&M. So he had a foundation for it.
Right.
But again, we haven't done the let's talk to the advisor at Texas A&M thing yet. So that's something that we probably need to do.
So, Alex, the important part is on your part, you said you had 7 colleges. What did they offer you? Did they offer any scholarships to you or anything? None. What colleges did you apply for?
It's South Texas,
Most of the Texas.
Texas Tech. What was it? SFA and all these colleges around here, San Marcos,
Texas State, and everything like that.
I think that was his final choice before. He's like, no, I'm gonna stay at Blinn.
So the thing is, they didn't offer you any academic scholarships at all.
I don't remember anything.
You don't remember it like that. So that's why it's so important. And Alex, I'm glad that you're here talking about that, because what's his name?
Alan.
On your part, Alex, and he could probably talk to you to kind of coach you, but you know that you have college days at Rudder High School where you have 3 college days where you can go to 3 different colleges, and they don't count against you. So you need to take advantage of that. Tell your mom and your dad, say, where I want to go to this school to find out about the school. But the questions that you have to ask, Manuel, is that you have to make a list to say, okay, my child is doing this, my child's got this and everything. What academic scholarships do you have? What departmental scholarships do y'all have? When is the deadlines that I need? The word deadline is so important because a lot of Hispanics miss the deadlines.
Right.
A lot of kids, not just Hispanics, but a lot of them. I would have a lot of students would call me, Senor Lopez, it's December the 15th and I need to get my application in. Hey, it was due 2 weeks ago.
Right.
They miss the word deadlines. So the thing is that it's important that the parents are involved with their kids.
Well, say like Alan, he decided to go to Blinn, so he should be focused on Blinn, right?
He should be focused on Blinn, but he really needs to be focused on the prerequisites
for construction science.
For construction science. So if construction science says you need to take this, that way what happens, he has his fall and spring semester already squared away. And then what you need to do is meet with the advisor. So Alex, here's the thing, Alex. What you need to do is meet with that advisor, know who his name is, get his phone number, get his email, and say, hey, listen, just want to send you in my transcript. I did this at Texas A&M. Because, see, here's the thing about transfers. A&M is not the one who's accepting you. A lot of people say, well, I'm going to A&M. Yes, but A&M is not accepting you. You know who's accepting you? The department is accepting you from A&M. So the construction science is the one who's going to accept.
Okay.
If once they say accept him, then what happens, they'll call the admission, say we accepted him, and then he gets that letter from A&M saying, congratulations, you've been accepted to the Department of Construction Science.
Right.
So that's how that works.
Okay. So what would you like to see happen with when Hispanics attending college? What needs to happen with more students, Hispanic students, attend college?
what needs to happen.
Right. What would you like to see happen? What needs to happen?
Well, the thing is that we what we need is to have more talk shows like this. But what we need is to have in the high schools a mandatory meeting with where parents and students or have like a college 101 lecture.
Right.
And go in there and say, hey, listen, today we're going to talk to you about going to college. Now, here's the thing. When we go up there to talk to the kids in high school at Rudder, Bryan High, Bryan Collegiate, and everything, when we go talk to them, we do talk to them, but it goes from one ear out to the other.
Right.
It does.
They're just spending time away from the classroom.
They're just sitting there because they don't want to go to school. They don't want that class. They go, hey man, I just burned me a free hour and everything. Am I right? Am I right? Correct? Yeah, you're shaking your head, but it's true.
Yeah.
But when they go with their parents and everything, but here's the sad thing about it, Manuel. And here's and I'm gonna get people upset, but it's okay because it's good to tell the truth.
Right.
So what happens is that when we have a program like that, and we invite the parents and everything in the Hispanic community, and we tell them, hey, we're going to give free pizzas, we want you to come and everything, only 10 people show up.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? 10 people show up. But if I would have said, hey, Salinas got a free dance and we're going to go this, you know how many people, free beer, you know how many people are going to show up?
About 400 probably.
Se llena. You can't have people outside the door.
Yeah.
See, the thing is that we prioritize
Right.
our differences.
Right.
Education is not first.
Right.
And education needs to be first.
So do Hispanics value education?
Some do and some don't. Some do and some don't. And let me explain why. It's funny. But I always seen this trend and I don't understand it. Remember the movie Rocky where it says you got the eye of the tiger?
Yeah.
You know, that theme, Eye of the Tiger, and Apollo Creed says, Rocky, Eye of the Tiger, Eye of the Tiger.
Yeah.
What happens is that there are a lot of Hispanics that have that opportunity to get that quality education, you know, from the FAFSA, to get, you know, whatever they want to, but they don't have that eye of the tiger. They don't value it.
Right.
And the thing is
And they don't take advantage.
They
of
don't
the
take advantage of the opportunities that they have. They don't. And then what happens?
Yeah.
You have kids que son de Mexico that they have that eye of the tiger, and they want that opportunity, but they can't get it because they're undocumented or they have it. And I could tell you stories and stories of that. I have a kid, Jose Luis Alaya, that a nurse adopted him. He was working. He was one of these kids that were in the trash and they were eating and everything. And this nurse adopted him and brought the family. And he graduated from Texas A&M. Now it's Dr. Jose Luis Alaya, but he's undocumented. I have some other kids from Denver Harbor. I'm trying to think of his name ahorita. Victor Castillo. No, not Victor Castillo. Victor Cardenas. Victor Cardenas. This kid was a different. He had the eye of the tiger, but he suffered. He suffered. And Manuel, if you hear the story, how he suffered is that Victor, what had happened, he spoke 7 different languages. And his mom, they were divorced, and his mom met somebody, and the person that he met did not want Victor in the house. So Victor became homeless. and he lived in the park at Denver Harbor in Houston. And the thing about it, Lynn Barnes is the one who told me about Victor. And so I went to the school and I said, I need to speak to Victor. And when they told me that he lived in the park, I went to go visit him at the park. And his room was the bathroom. The security guy had a lock and everything, and that's where he would stay.
Wow.
And he would go to school. And the thing about it is now Victor graduated from Texas A&M, and he got his degree in animation, and now he's at Pixar.
Wow.
So there's stories that came in, but is that when you go back to that question is that there's kids and there's kids that don't want to take that opportunity.
Right.
Like for example, there's kids that for example, Bryan High offers cosmetology. Okay, that's a good one there. They offer cosmetology, and what happens is that with that cosmetology, they offer it for free. And then what happens is that if you take a cosmetology course and everything like that, and you can take the state test, everything, and Chase paid for that, and then you can start working.
Right, you get your license.
Get your license.
For free.
For free. A lot of them graduate and then they want to go into cosmetology.
Right.
And why spend $25,000 when you had it for free in high school? If you knew that's what you were going to do. So the thing is that we don't prioritize the education.
Right.
Now, I'll let you know that everybody needs to fill out the federal application form, the FAFSA.
FAFSA, yeah.
No matter if you're going to get financial aid or not, because the reason is, and here you go, most of your scholarships that are out there require that you have a FAFSA on file. I'll give you the Houston Livestock Rodeo. That's an $18,000 scholarship every year for 4 years.
Wow.
But they require that you have a FAFSA on file. And then you have the other ones that dicen que I'm undocumented, I'm from Mexico, and I can't. You still have the TASFA. You can still get state aid and not not federal aid.
Now, what is that called again?
It's called the TASFA.
TASFA.
Texas Association of Financial Aid.
Okay.
Now, here's the thing. All this opens up in the next month.
Okay.
So he's ready to apply to go to college.
Right.
He needs to start working on the FAFSA. Right, in October.
You filled out the FAFSA, right? Yeah, you filled out the FAFSA.
Yeah, and that's what you do, and you got to fill it out every 4 years, and then fill out all the scholarships. Go to your counselor and figure out everything. I'm going to give you a secret. I'm going to give you a well-known secret about something, man. Do you know on college night they always have the at all high schools they have the scholarship night. They have a scholarship night too. All the kids are getting award scholarships from that high school.
Wow.
You know that?
Mm-mm.
Yeah. So last year when he was at where were you at, Bryan High? Rudder had a scholarship night. Okay? And all these kids were getting scholarships. Well, all you had to do was just walk in and grab you that sheet, and it had all their names, and it had all the donors of all the scholarships. So who are you going to be contacting? Those same donors that gave out the scholarships.
Right.
And you got to look at it. You got to kind of hustle for scholarships.
Yeah. Well, we're going to talk to you after this.
And then the last one was the Jefferson Award.
The Jefferson Award. Yeah, we're going to get to the Jefferson Award. Tell me about the Jefferson Award, because that's the big one, right?
But yeah, well,
that's
all of
the
them,
Community Service Award.
Yeah, that's
For las fiestas patrias, right?
I got that one, but then I just got inducted into the Bryan ISD Hall of Honors just recently. A year ago, I got inducted to that. I got recognized for the services that I did for Texas A&M. I've been in the education field for 33 years. Wow. And the beauty of it is that I got recognized for the impact that I did for community service and what I've done for the Jefferson Award. I was the first Hispanic, the second Hispanic to Alma Villarreal got one,
Okay.
and then it was myself. But the thing is that I was the first Hispanic to go to Washington D.C. to represent Bryan College Station and Texas A&M. And I went as an Aggie and went as a community, and that was something that I always will remember, because it was both good and bad for me.
Mm-hmm.
The how I got that, I mean, I did it, but the reason I say it was good and bad is because I had a tragedy on the Jefferson Award. A lot of people criticized me that why I was crying when they told me I won the Jefferson Award. Well, the week before the Jefferson Award, my mom passed away, and I buried my mom on that Sunday. And then on Monday,
You received the award.
I received the award, and and what had happened is that my family was there, my dad was there, and there was an empty chair, and that was my mom's empty chair, and it hit me.
Right.
It hit me that that mom wasn't there, and I won the Jefferson Award for outstanding community service that I received. And then right after I got the Jefferson Award, they announced that who was going to go to Washington, D.C. And so I was a recipient, and Mom wasn't there. And I was going to go to Washington on the Jefferson Award Wednesday. And I buried my dad that Tuesday.
Wow.
Before I took off to Washington.
And I bet they were both proud of you.
And so when I gave my speech in Washington, D.C. on the Jefferson Award, I looked up and I said, I'm looking up to the sky today, guys. I have two angels, one on the left and one on the right. Mom and Dad, thank you for all your blessings that you gave me. And I had tears. But I almost got the award of the Jackie Onassis Award. They did call me on the stage, and they only, out of the 10 people, they only picked 5, and I was one of the 10 that they picked. I didn't win it, but it was really nice to receive the Jefferson Award for all the community service that was done, and being recognized for the Fiestas Patrias, and doing the impact that I did with thousands of kids that I recruited to go to college. But it was weird. It was a beautiful time because I was with my wife. I mean, being in Washington D.C. and everything. But I was with, again, are you ready? I was with Dolores because she received the Jefferson Award. Oprah Winfrey received the Jefferson Award. I was with Joe Torre of the New York Yankees. I was at his table. He was receiving the Jefferson Award. There were some really big people receiving the Jefferson Award. I really, to be honest with you, I thought, wow, man, what an honor. I had the Washington, the affiliate from KBTX in Washington. They interviewed me, and when I was in Washington, is being around and surrounded by all these people. And the thing is, I thought that my impact was something, but my God, there was people that did things for people that you couldn't imagine. Mm-hmm. I mean, seriously, there were people were what they did.
Right.
Joe Torre.
But that shouldn't make it any less than yours, because you helped a lot of people as well.
Yeah, but like I say, I was surprised. To me, I was like, me getting this, man. Look at all these people, what they have done. But like I say, it was an honor to represent the community, and so it's never been where it gets to your head or anything, because my dad has always instilled, it says, respeta a las personas para que te respetan a ti. And I've always been humble. You know, it's nothing.
You do it from the heart.
Yeah,
right?
I don't know. This is what I did. Nothing was what I did. It's the thing is, Manuel, if I had an impact and I had to say something, it's not how I lived my life, how I impacted others while I lived in this life.
Right.
And to me, that was the most beautiful part that I really want to express out of this interview is that, you know, I'm very blessed and very grateful what my parents have gave me and what they did, and Father Tim and everybody. But you know, the most important part is that I don't do it to say this is what I did.
Right.
I do it is because I really do want to make a change in young people's lives, man.
Right.
Because like I say is, the more educated this community is, the better it is.
Right. And it's important to have Hispanic leaders as well.
Oh,
Right.
yes. Remember, we lost the music. I mean, la cultura, speaking Spanish and everything. It's good for us to have, Bobby Gutierrez being the first Hispanic mayor. You know, si se puede.
Yeah.
You know, we can do anything we want to if we put our mind to it. Our mind and our heart and our heart and our mind and make that dream and give that hope. We can do anything we want to, man.
Yeah.
Who said that we can't? Only ourselves. If you don't believe in yourself, who's going to believe in you?
Right. Right.
So that's the way I look at it.
Yeah. Well, Roy, I appreciate you being here, and I wanted to say thank you for everything you did for the community here in Bryan College Station, and for all the kids you helped out, and for all the money that you've raised for these students. And we appreciate it, and I'm pretty sure everybody here appreciates you and everything you've done.
Well, thank you. I the only thing, like I say, man, is the most powerful part, the most powerful weapon that you can ever have is education.
Education.
Education is the most powerful weapon that you can do, because the reason is being educated. It's powerful, man.
Yeah.
It's a very powerful to be educated and believe in yourself, and don't let anybody stop you from believing who you are and what you want to be and what that dream is all about. And again, Manuel, muchas gracias. I thank you, kids, for being honest about everything.
Right.
But you know, just if we're leaving with this, I thank God for the opportunity. And if anybody ever wants to talk to me, I'm at West 25th Cleaners. They're at the cleaners that my dad has. You know, my dad had. The thing is, we're La Perla Papatilla, Milianos Plaza. I'm always there Monday through Saturday. And so if you want to talk about education, or if you need where I could point you or do the right direction, I do it, like, again, from the bottom of my heart. There's no charge. There's no nothing. It's just if I can make an impact on your son's or daughter's life to become a better person and make a leader in this community, then I've done something.
Okay. Well,
Thank you.
Roy.
Is that it?
Roy Edward Lopez, thank you for being here.
Muchas gracias,
That is
Manuel.
it, man. I want to leave it at that. And
Thank you, sir.
That was a good closing, and I appreciate you being here. And I want to thank everybody for subscribing and letting us have guests like Roy Lopez here.
Yeah.
And appreciate you. And guys, we see y'all next time, and thank y'all for tuning in.
Thank you. God bless you. Bye-bye. Giga Maggies.